Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast where we're going to dive into another fascinating health-related topic. Joining me from Denmark is Jonas West. How you doing?
I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm really good. I'm looking forward to this. We're going to dive into the whole subject of raw milk, which is quite an interesting one. I've done it, tried it myself. It's so much nicer to taste for a start. But if you look at mainstream evidence or mainstream reports of it, which obviously I've done a bit of this morning just to see what their take is on it, they say it's dangerous. They say it's full of harmful pathogens and so on. So let's go back to the start on your journey. So how did you first get into raw milk and consuming it daily as you do now?
Yeah, sure. And yes, that's true. There is a lot of fear mongering going on with raw milk, and hopefully we'll get into that. But in terms of my own personal journey, it's really been it started out young for me. I was always very interested in health. I was doing like natural bodybuilding and the sort of mainstream health stuff, eating a lot of salads and chicken breast, the bodybuilder diets, and all of this. So I had already this sort of interest in health, and I quickly found out that eating that way and living that way, it gave me nice big muscles and all of that. But I wasn't really feeling as good as I intuitively knew I could. So I started looking more and more into some more niche and alternative options. I started getting into like the carnivore sphere and that kind of environment, and that helped me out a little bit, but also it was not quite what I was seeking. So I just started looking more and more in depth into all of these different niches, and I came across Weston Price Foundation, which is a very famous nutrition old nutrition foundation started by this guy called Weston Price, who was a dentist who went around the world in the 1900s, where he studied indigenous people, and he studied why they were so healthy, and he noticed how immediately when industrialized foods came into all of these communities, their entire facial structure and their teeth and everything just sort of went wrong. And yeah, he wrote a very interesting book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, and that is really what set me off on the sort of health journey that I'm still very much into. And that is really going back to the natural foods that human tribes relied upon before all of this industrial revolution all around the world pretty much now. So that's really what started my own journey. I started experimenting with a lot of the practices that people like the Weston Price Foundation and people like Natasha Campbell and all these different health influencers who helped me out a lot. And I started getting really into traditional foods and eating more ancestrally based, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
So eating a lot more animal nutrition and whole foods, obviously. And then I came across raw milk, and really it started with me getting across something called Kefir, which is what started the whole thing off, which is actually quite a similar thing to raw milk in terms of the benefits. But I had just amazing results with that. I really transformed my own health. I didn't really have a lot of health problems, but I did have some lifelong complications that seemed to be getting worse and worse, specifically asthma and allergies was very, very big for me. And when you look into raw milk and the testimonials of people who have gotten into that stuff, who were sick beforehand, it's a very, very often things like asthma and allergies that they noticed
Yeah.
completely eradicates when they get into things like raw milk and also the kefir. And that was the exact same for me. I just had this complete removal of my asthmatic symptoms, and my allergies got a lot better, and all this other stuff. So it was a really big transformation for me personally. And since then, I've just pretty much been spreading the gospel about, especially raw milk has been a favorite of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to try it then because I've got asthma and my wife has like the worst hay fever you can imagine in the summer.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that really surprised me when I was reading health benefits. Allergies just seemed like a really random thing
Yeah.
to see. So for you, when you started drinking raw milk, how quickly did you start to notice that your asthma and that your allergies had improved?
Yeah. So it wasn't like an instant thing specifically with the allergies, but with the asthma and the other stuff, I do think also obviously improving other aspects of my diet had an impact on it as well. But specifically with the raw milk and the um, kefir and stuff like that, we know that it's so rich in probiotics, basically beneficial bacteria, which go into your gut and clean up all the damage that has been done in there and really colonizes it with the right sort of things. And we just learn more and more about how almost all health aspects of our body is connected to the state of our gut microbiome. So I just really felt that uh, there was this connection with my lungs and how my stomach was feeling like if I had eaten a lot of things that I don't really tolerate as well in my gut, there was all these problems, and also my asthma started getting flamed up again and all of that. So it just comes down to this like gut brain connection, gut body connection. Everything is basically connected into our gut, and it has a lot of impact also on our mental state and our happiness. I remember the first time I drank raw milk kefir, I had read about how it could actually impact your mood, and you could become more happy because of the gut-brain
Really?
connection. We have like 95% of the serotonin, which is like the happiness chemical, is produced in the gut. We have GABA neurotransmitters. There are so many neurotransmitters we are finding more and more all the time that is produced by microbes in our gut. So I had read about that, and I didn't really fully believe it. I think I just didn't really think about it. But then I drank this kefir for the first time, and I just walked around for like 2 hours with like, it was like I was on drugs or something. I was just so happy, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I had no negative thoughts. It was very unique. So it was just this big like transformation, and not that you're just happy forever, but it was just like when you're not used to having those microbes and you introduce them, there really just something happens on a gut level, but also on a brain level, and also with all these other aspects of the biology. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's absolutely fascinating. Well, Kefir is quite a more mainstream product now, is that you can buy it in the supermarkets in the UK, for example. So what exactly is the difference then? You say it's quite similar. What's the difference between that and raw milk?
Yeah, so kefir, obviously, yeah, you can buy it a lot of places. I saw in the UK when I was there, they have it in many supermarkets. But a thing I talk about a lot is that the things you buy in the supermarket, the kefirs, are actually not real kefir. The
Yep.
real kefir is made from what is called kefir grains. So that is like, it looks sort of like cauliflower type of thing. It's like a sponge, but it's basically a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And we have no idea where they came from. Supposedly they started in like the Caucasus Mountain, where the indigenous people, they had these kefir grains that they used to put in their milk, and people observed them and they were very healthy and all of this. So it sort of spread to Russia and then to all across the globe. But no one really knows how these kefir grains came into existence in the first place. It's a very mysterious thing. Science studies it a lot and they want to replicate them, but they can't replicate kefir grains. It's just impossible for them, which is kind of fascinating to me as well. But basically, it's these grains, a symbiotic culture of yeast and bacteria, sort of like a culture, like, you know, from kombucha and stuff
Yep.
like that. And you put it into basically fresh milk. The milk has to be raw or very lightly pasteurized only. If it's like ultra pasteurized milk, ultra heated, then the kefir grains can't work and they can't ferment the milk properly. So what they do is they ferment raw or lightly pasteurized milk, and they sort of turn it into fermented yogurt type milk, and then you just drink that, and that is filled with probiotics. So many different probiotics. Like if you know, yogurt is what we're told by the mainstream a lot, has a lot of good things for our gut, a lot of probiotics, basically beneficial bacteria. It usually has like 5 to 6 strains of bacteria maximum. But when you make your own homemade kefir with these grains, it has maybe 40 to 60 different bacterial strains, and you can't find that in anything else, no supplement, or it's just very, very unique. And it's one of the things that I believe myself, humanity is in desperate need of, like these beneficial microbes, because they are also responsible for helping us clean out a lot of the stuff that we are bombarded with, the heavy metals, the pesticides, everything that is accumulated in our body is also helped in the removal process by introducing microbes from kefir. Raw milk naturally also has these probiotics, beneficial bacteria in there in high amounts. So that's why I say they're kind of a similar thing, because they are two very microbially rich foods. And yeah, that's a big passion of mine. Yeah.
That's quite incredible. And you talk about ancient diets and animal proteins being a very central point to that. It's without a doubt we've seen a war on animal products in the last few years. They've been demonized more and more, and even synthetic versions of them are being released and suggested as the way forward. Climate change, things like that are being used as a justification for things like that. So it's so clear that there must be benefits to these products. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to censor them. In the same way, salt, salt, what you get in a restaurant on a table is crap. But, sea salt, Himalayan rock salts, they're great for you. But again, they're demonized along with dairy. We're told that butter, yogurts, milk, things like that are so high in fat that they're actually, damaging to the body, when fat is so important, isn't it, for for the way the way the brain communicates for a start. So it's very, very interesting to see these demonized, yet there's a lot of healthy, very fitness-based influencers like yourself who are actually pushing it rather than saying, no, 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 let's go vegan. You're actually pushing the animal products, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That was the big breakthrough for me, because I was just in the usual mainstream mindset where I was just following what the authorities told me and what the mainstream media sort of told me, that you should eat less meat, you should basically go vegan and eat as little dairy and meat products as possible. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And I was young and healthy naturally, so I didn't really notice a lot at that time. But I just noticed when I switched to the high fat animal products that something just happened with my brain, with my energy levels. We also know that saturated fat from meat, and you get it from milk, and all these high fat animal products, it's a precursor to testosterone, the same with cholesterol, so these natural fertility hormones within your body. So this is what we really need, and it's what we really crave. A lot of the people I've helped, I do sort of health coaching also a bit, and when I help people who was like I didn't really know what to eat, and was also maybe avoiding animal products a lot, when I tell them start getting more saturated fats and animal fats into your diet, that's like the 80% of what helps with people. They get a massive boost in energy levels, massive boost in like cognition and all of this. So we are just so deprived of it, and it's almost like there is a concerted effort to like mislead people in terms of this. Like I was reading the other day from the Danish health authorities, they were talking about the health benefits of milk. They didn't mention pasteurization at all, and that's what it is. But they were also telling people to eat light dairy products, so dairy products with no fat in it at all. It's like
fat free.
no matter where we go, we're told not to eat the fat, which is probably the thing that, in my opinion, is what we need the most: the microbes and the fat. And they want us to eat pasteurized milk that has no microbes, and they want us to eat the light, non-fat dairy products. So they want us to avoid the fat and the microbes, which is the most essential part of those foods. So that's also why a lot of the time I do recommend animal products. I do recommend milk a lot. But if you go to the store and just buy ultra pasteurized milk, a lot of people can't really tolerate that. So that's not what I want people to go out and do. I really want people to get educated about raw milk, how you find it, why it's so good. And basically there's all these nutrients we get from raw milk that we just can't get from standard milk. What they tell you is that pasteurization, which is what raw milk, they take raw milk and they pasteurize it, and then that's what they sell in the stores, and that's the only thing that's legal. But what they tell you is that that pasteurized milk is still filled with all the vitamins and minerals in there, and that's actually true. But what the pasteurization does is it destroys all the enzymes and the microbes that is supposed to take those nutrients and turn into nutrition in your body. So a lot of the nutrition in the store-bought milk, while it's in there, your body can't absorb it. So it's basically useless, and a lot of people can't digest it at all in their stomach, so they get like lactose intolerance symptom. And that's not really that they are intolerant to the lactose. It's because natural milk has lactase enzymes, which is supposed to digest the lactose naturally in the milk. That's what raw milk has. That's why we can just drink it. And people who think they're lactose intolerant, if they drink raw milk, they're going to get milk that already has lactase enzymes in it to digest the lactose, and they're not going to have any issues. So a big part of why milk today is seen as this like big allergenic food is because people have been sort of scammed into drinking dead pasteurized milk that just can't be digested. It doesn't have any enzymes. It's basically kind of dead milk, and they can't absorb it, and they get stomach pains and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a bit sad.
So I mean, that's completely incredible, given that it's promoted in some areas as still being a healthy product. But just for people that are not familiar with the process of pasteurization, so from when a cow is milked and you have the raw milk to what you then buy in the supermarket, what is that process like, that pasteurization process?
Yeah, so it's a long process, and it's not only pasteurization, which is done nowadays to destroy our milk. So basically first they milk the cows with some kind of machine, and that is what it is. That's fine. And then the milk, usually sometimes it's done at the farm, sometimes it's done at another facility, but they basically take all the milk, they put it in a big tank, which is the pasteurizer. It's very expensive equipment, which actually popularized back in the 1930s by Rockefeller and people like that,
Right.
which we could get into as well. It's quite interesting. But basically, it's this huge machinery, which is very expensive, which they just dump all the milk in, and it heats the milk for a very, very short amount of time, but to very, very high temperature. In that was to really kill all the dangerous microbes in there. So that's basically what pasteurization is. It's quite simple. It's just heating the milk very quickly, but it's almost like shock therapy for the milk. So it's just radioactivity almost. It's not really heat. So it kills all the life in there, all the enzymes, all the good microbes, and also all the bad microbes, which in my opinion, if you get milk, raw milk from healthy cows who have just been eating grass, they're never going to contain the bad microbes that they're so scared of. It's always from these conventional factory farms, which I would never recommend people drink from, not even pasteurized milk, because what we've seen in the data is that people from pasteurized farms, from milk that has been pasteurized, is very often also evidence for these outbreaks in listeria and all these things. So pasteurized milk doesn't really guarantee safety, which is also what they really would like people to believe. So that's basically what happens to the milk. It gets pasteurized, it gets heated. Some places they do like a light pasteurization where they only heat it to like 60 degrees Celsius or something around there. That's a little bit better because then at least some of the milk is still alive, and you can use that to make kefir to add more microbes, and it becomes alive again, sort of. But a lot of the milk also nowadays is ultra highly pasteurized, which is up to 100 degrees Celsius. And that really just destroys all of the milk. You can't even make kefir with it. The kefir grains will just die. And you just can't really use it for any health supporting aspects at all. And they do that usually also to increase shelf life. That's why you can see the milk
Yeah.
in some stores. It's like not even in the fridge. That's because it's ultra highly pasteurized. So that's the milk you really want to avoid. And then what they also do after the pasteurization in most places is homogenization, which is sort of putting the milk through these long tubes to homogenize it. So basically to get all the fat molecules mixed in with the smaller molecules, so there's no separation basically in the milk. You know how if you leave milk out, that's just natural raw milk or non-homogenized milk, the cream will rise to the top, and that's what they want to avoid. So they do the homogenization, which also disrupts the fat in the milk and destroys basically the fat molecules. So you want to avoid all of that processing as much as possible, which is basically just buying raw milk is the best thing.
The fat rising to the top's the best bit in the sense of the first sip when you open the bottle is just
Yes.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So for most people around the world, they'd look at milk as kind of an addition to tea, addition to coffee, something they have on their cereal. They probably don't look at it as like a health superfood to take in every day to help, benefit their health. So with the amount that you consume, do you just use it how you would normal milk? You have it here and there in additions, or do you actively say, right, I'm drinking at least 2 pints or whatever a day as a health food?
Yeah. So I try to stay a lot away from the dogmas, like people saying you should drink 2 glasses or you should drink a liter. Like I very much go with the specific needs of the person if I'm helping them, or with myself, I go with my own like feeling and what I know my body needs. So for example, when I started out, I was really just craving the raw milk so much. It was really helping me out. So I could drink like 1 or 2 liters just during the day. And that's what my body needed. But nowadays, I feel very healed, and I feel I don't need that support level on my body anymore from all the nutrients and the microbes and the enzymes that was in the milk. So what I usually do nowadays is I have it on my breakfast. I eat like some oats with maybe some fruit, and I put some raw milk on there. And maybe later I'll have like a small glass of raw milk if I'm feeling like it. But that's usually it. You don't really have to do that much, honestly, because it's such dense in nutrition, and it's such a dense nutritional food that you don't need to drink 10 liters like a calf does, because we have to keep in mind this is created to support the life of a calf so it can grow to like very big size in a very short amount of time. So you don't want to, some people go overboard with it, is what I'm trying to say. But initially it can actually be a bit beneficial to go a little overboard if you really feel like you need it, but you don't want to force yourself to drink like 3 liters of raw milk a day if you don't really feel like it or crave it or anything. That I wouldn't recommend that. So it's very individual from person to person what they need, and yeah, you sort of have to think about that a bit.
How did you find when you first started that it affected your weight at all? Did you put some weight on when you were drinking like 2 liters a day?
Yeah, definitely. Because that's the thing with it. It's like so filled with nutrition, and it's so easy to just consume a lot of. So if you go around drinking, like you can easily drink 2 liters a day. Most people can, but you will put weight on then if you just keep eating everything else as you like normally eat it. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. But it is actually, again, as I said, things like saturated fat, which is found in high amounts in milk, is a positive contributor to things like testosterone and all the good things, all the metabolism in your body. So it can actually help you lose weight when used in the right connection. But obviously, anything that you overeat of is just going to increase your weight. And yeah, so
Right.
definitely, if you want to lose weight, you don't want to be drinking like 3 liters of raw milk a day. That's
You can
gonna
apply
be
that to apply it to anything, can you? Certain things
yeah.
are really good for you, like avocados are great for you, but if you eat 10 a day, there's quite a few calories in there.
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of, we mentioned right at the start to do with the fear mongering that you get, if you Google raw milk on a mainstream search engine, for example. So what are some of the common misconceptions and common scare tactics that they use in the sense of, if you drink raw milk, this will happen, this will happen.
Yeah. So it's basically boils down to bacteria. They are very scared of the like water soluble bacteria that they say very easily gets into raw milk. That's like Listeria. I forget the names of them, but I think also Salmonella and all these different pathogens that are basically very dangerous. And that's the misleading part is they try to they have convinced people that it's only present in raw milk, and that's the only place we can get these dangerous bacteria. But if you think about it, we can go into the supermarket, buy a piece of meat, eat it raw. We're going to get the same bacteria. We can buy cucumbers. We can buy all these things which potentially have the same pathogens on them. Actually, the institution I mentioned earlier, the Western Price Foundation, they did the studies on all the US government data on people who have gotten sick from raw milk and people who have gotten sick from other foods like cucumbers or processed foods or whatever. And what they came down to was that you are 35,000 times more likely to become sick from other foods than raw milk. So that's
Oh,
35,000. That's a lot. And what they also don't tell you is that a lot of the worst outbreaks that have happened from pathogens from milk are from pasteurized milk. So you can go on Google and look this up yourself. The worst outbreaks of salmonella, of listeria, and all these other pathogens have usually come from pasteurized milk. So you're not even safe off by drinking just pasteurized milk. That's what they want you to think, that if you just drink pasteurized milk, then you are somehow safe. But yeah, and I can just say anecdotally, I know so many people from here where I live, and I've talked to people all over the world who have been drinking raw milk for their entire life for 20, 50 years. People who have been drinking 5 liters almost a day, 3 to 5 liters for many, many years, 6 to 10 years. None of them has ever gotten sick. None of them has ever died. And yeah, they're basically all much healthier than all of the people I hear tell me that raw milk is dangerous online and stuff. So I think that also goes to show a lot how the fear mongering is sort of instilled in people. And with that being said, I do always say, and it's important to note, you always want to buy your raw milk from healthy grass-fed animals, ideally where you know the farmer and what he gives them and all of that. You never want to just go to some random factory farm in China or something and just buy
yeah.
raw milk from there. It's gonna have a lot of bad stuff in it, but also I wouldn't recommend you doing that even if it was pasteurized. So but there are cases where the pasteurization can help if it's like a totally filthy factory farmed environment. It can help sterilize the milk, and then you're just drinking dead milk, but at least you're not getting sick from it. But
Yeah.
you want milk from healthy cows, organic, grass fed, and all of that, and you'll have nothing to worry about when it comes to raw milk. That's my opinion.
That sounds good. I might go and buy some this afternoon. There's someone in the office that's been talking about this farm down the road from where I live that they do it all. So I might go and get some this afternoon. Well,
Yeah,
you're on about day what 1,000 and something now that you've been drinking it. I see your
yeah,
Instagram posts.
yeah. It was just a random number. It's just like a joke post.
Oh,
But
right.
yeah, it's probably I've been drinking it almost daily for at least 3 years, so it's probably around there, 1,000 days or something.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. So in terms of people that you've worked with, people that you know advise and that you coach, what are some of the more kind of obscure and different health issues that people have come to you with, and then you've advised them to go down the raw milk route that this has helped them?
Yeah. Um, well, it's not someone I helped, but I actually recently saw someone who had been using raw milk to cure autism in her child. So that's a
Wow.
very interesting thing. And it does, again, I explained the gut-brain connection and how these microbes from things like raw milk and kefir actually help detox things. So specifically with autism, what we have seen is very often children who have autism, and this also goes for older people who get dementia and stuff like that, is because of the heavy metals they have accumulated in their brains. So our brain is essentially a large gland which holds on to all of the heavy metals we get from our food, from the air, from the water. We have heavy metals basically everywhere, and they are very hard to get out of the body, specifically because people don't eat the correct ways. They don't have the right microbes to get these out of their body. That's what raw milk and stuff like that can really help detox, is all the metals we have accumulated, especially in our brain, surprisingly. And that's what I believe happened to this son that she had, which she used raw milk to cure autism. You can find a lot of other testimonials that also talk about autism and how raw milk has helped them with that, and how kefir and stuff like really helps people with these brain-related issues. So that's a thing I've also noticed a lot on a smaller level with the people I help inside of my health program. When we get these highly fermented, highly microbially rich foods into their diet, it really has an impact on cognition and your ability to concentrate and to sort of, it just helps your brain, is the short story. And there are also a lot of studies that back this up, what I'm saying in terms of heavy metals. For example, Natasha Campbell, who I like a lot, who also talks a lot about kefir and raw milk and stuff like that. She mentioned a study about a group of rats where they had two groups. The one group, they sterilized their gut, basically removed all the microbes in the guts of the rats, and they put mercury into them, a heavy metal, very toxic heavy metal, mercury. And they did the same to another group of 10 rats, but they had a normal microbiome, basically. They had normal microbes in their gut. And when they were all dead and they examined them, they could see how the mice or the rats that have the destroyed gut, the sterilized gut, they also had all of the mercury still in their brains and their glands and their body. But the ones who did not have a sterilized gut, they had basically maybe only 10% mercury left or something. So that
Wow.
goes to show that the gut really helps in, or basically the microbes we have both in our gut and in our entire body, because we are basically filled with microbes, and that's what we really want to honor also through diet, through things like raw milk. And it can really help out with these insane things that people really don't connect to diet, like autism and brain related issues. So that's a very surprising one for me. And then also energy levels is a big one. That's the primary thing that everyone I help really notices is a very, very big increase in energy levels. And yeah, that comes down to the nutrition, but also the microbes inside the raw milk and all these different things that I tell people they should be eating more of.
Well, that's a massive sales pitch for it, because so many people are tired, they're lethargic, they wake up with no energy, they go to bed absolutely shattered at the end of the day, for whatever reason. Probably the main one is they're not getting the nutrition from the food. You know, most of the food people eat is absolute crap. So, in just looking at the other areas of diet and nutrition that you follow in your philosophy. So, as well as the raw milk, what's your kind of base diet? Do you choose, by the
Yeah.
sound of it, is it quite keto based if it's quite high fat?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about what I teach. It's not really a specific diet at all. Like, I'm not into keto, I'm not into carnivore, I'm not into vegetarian, but I am very, very much into the big fundamental aspect of organic natural nutrition. That's, I would say, is the most broad way I could explain my diet, is organic nutrition, and with a plus side of fatty animal products to get those fat soluble vitamins that we need so much. But basically organic nutrition, both because of what it does to the earth. When you support organic farmers, they treat the earth much better without pesticides, all these toxins. You don't have those in the soil, you don't have those in the food. You also have more nutrition in the food. You can look this up on a lot of different sources, that, for example, an organic tomato will have 9 times the iron of a conventional tomato, and that goes for all foods. They just have more nutrition and more power. They will help out your energy levels and everything else. So for a lot of people, it's hard to get organic food. Here in Denmark, where I live, it's very, very easy and simple. So I can basically get anything organic, and that means that since I don't really have any issues on trying to heal, my diet can be very broad in terms of I can eat pizza even in healthy ways. Like I can make sourdough bread, I can fill it with raw grass-fed cheese and organic tomato sauce and maybe some high quality grass-fed meat or something like that. And that can actually be a very healthy meal for someone like me. Maybe someone who doesn't really tolerate grains very well right now or has some issues they're trying to heal. Maybe they want to stay away from that and stay more simplistic, and then I'll help them with that. So that's really how I see diet. There's so many different things that we can be eating, and that's really what I also want to bring to the table a lot, is that eating healthy shouldn't be this boring, I eat salad and chicken breast all day and protein shakes. You can actually get raw milk ice cream. You can get even make your own sodas. I make something called water kefir, which is also a probiotic, almost soda type thing. So you can make all these delicious, very healthy foods. And it's my philosophy that any food in the modern world that we feel we really need, whether it's chips or whether it's crisps or whether it's candy, you can actually find a healthy, natural alternative to it. Like you can find so many good resources on this online. You can make healthy gummies for your kids. You can make healthy candy. You can do all these different things. And obviously there's an adjustment to that. Like you're not going to get the same flavor bomb as you get from like a McDonald's cheeseburger, but you are going to get it in a way where it actually nourishes your body and it satisfies your satiety. You don't have to crave all these different foods anymore. You actually get satisfaction from the things you eat. So it can be a very fulfilling path in my experience to go down.
100%. You feel a lot fuller, a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Like I try that with my kids. I do homemade chicken nuggets, chips,
Yeah.
everything just completely homemade, and they don't actually complain about it, which is good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've been doing this diet for the last few weeks. Obviously, I've not been able to train since I broke my ribs, so I've been very conscious of not putting on weight. So I've been doing 16/8 fasting, and then rather than having a meal first, I have a smoothie, like a decent size smoothie in the sense of like, it's got things like avocado and protein powder and stuff in it. So it's about probably 600 calories. But I find I have that about 12, and then I don't eat dinner till 6 or 7, and I'm not hungry because that's been so nutrient dense that it satisfies your body. So
Yeah.
have you found since you've been, I mean, you said you've always been interested in health and fitness, but have you found that you actually eating less and you feel more satisfied and fuller for longer when you have more nutrient dense foods?
Definitely. I think there's definitely like this culture of just snacking all throughout the day and needing coffee all the time as well is another aspect that I think is trying to make up for the nutrients we are needing. That people, like, I'm not saying coffee is evil or anything like that, but some people, at least here in Denmark, they are like 5 to 8 coffees a day just to be able to do their work and stuff like that. So it's like at that point, you're really trying to make up for the nutritional deficiencies that is actually supposed to provide your body with energy. That's my opinion. And yeah, that's what I noticed when I switched my diet as well. I was no longer in need of coffee at all. And I just was no longer in need of like these sugar crashes, getting sugar back into my body all throughout the day. I could, as you said, just eat my breakfast and then be good for the night or be good for a very long time. And that's what I usually, I don't really fast. I don't really have a fasting schedule, but sometimes if I'm out and about or if I'm in the city, I don't really want to go and get some conventional food. I just don't eat anything. And then I get home later and I eat instead because my body is not in such a scarcity mode that just needs energy input all the time. It actually has a lot of nutrition that it's holding on to from all the raw milk and all the nutrient dense products that I've been eating over the years. Like most of the vitamins in our body are fat soluble and your body can hold on to it, and then it can sort of release them when it needs it. So the more you get into your body, it sort of holds on to it, sort of like it holds on to it and it can release it. So that's a big and good point in my opinion as well, is that your satiety is just, you're finally gonna be satiated once you get these foods back into it. And that's what I hear a lot from the people I help as well, is that they finally feel satiated. Like it's what you also hear a lot, in my opinion, when people go on like plant-based diets. Initially, they can be very healing because they cut out a lot of the processed foods and a lot of the crap. So they do feel an initial surge of like feeling good. But you'll often run into extreme hunger. I've seen this in so many people. Like it's just no matter how much they eat of the plant-based foods, it's just like there's something missing, and they're constantly
Yeah.
hungry. They constantly have to snack and stuff like that. So that's a big issue with the plant-based diets, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, some look healthy, but a lot look quite pale and skinny, I think, when
Yeah,
you see
for
the
sure.
plant-based diet. So what I see online with like the health and fitness style influencers and space is you've got half that are all about how you look, and that's the sole focus. And then you've
Yeah.
got the other half, which is obviously where you're coming from, which is health first, and then how you look kind of, I guess, is a byproduct of eating the right kind of foods. You're not going to be overweight, you're going to be in relatively good shape. So how do you find the diet and the obviously drinking the raw milk has worked alongside your training? Because you obviously, I can see you train as well. So do you find that you have more energy, your training sessions are better, more intense as a result of it?
Yeah, well, I'd say my relationship with training has completely changed back from when I was on the more mainstream chicken breast, broccoli, salad diet. Back then, I really was not in touch with my own body as much, I feel like. So I would just go to the gym 6 days a week and train for 2 hours every time, and I would just get wired on caffeine and pre-workout, and like I would just smash through it, and like I would get bigger muscles from that, obviously, because I put so much stress onto my body. But I don't think I was doing myself any favors. Like I was young, so I could regenerate pretty effectively and stuff like that. But if I was going to keep going down that route, I feel like it was not going to be helpful for myself. So when I changed over to the more natural diet, I did still work out, but I actually started noticing a lot more signaling from my body, I think you could say, to when I should stop working out, to when I should maybe skip a day, to when I can go. So I think I get much better rest nowadays, and I don't force myself to the gym and force caffeine into my system just to go through this. I think you really have to have that good balance between rest and workout. I think it's very key in this modern society, because we see so many people who are very into working out, but I don't think they're actually doing it in a healthy way when
Yeah.
they're doing it to such extreme degrees without getting the right nutrition. I think they're actually putting way too much stress onto their body, and it's going to manifest later on in their life as maybe injuries or maybe actually health issues because of all the cortisol, all the stress that's been going on in their body for so long. So I think that's another part of why really nourishing your system is going to help with your workout, not output, but with the way you work out. I feel like it's helped me to do it in a more egoless way, where I don't go into the gym and say, yeah, I have to do 2 hours, I have to do all these things. I just go in there, and since I trust myself not to be lazy and stuff like that, I just say, okay, I go until I feel like my body says it's time to stop, and then so I think I've gotten more intuitive with it, I would say, and it's helped me out personally, but also if you're obviously someone who finds it very hard to go to the gym and you have to drag yourself over there all the time. I wasn't like that. I was really enjoying it. But if you are like that, then also getting all this good nutrition and the specifically raw milk can be very anabolic, actually help you out to grow more muscle and heal. But it's also just filled with all of this energy that you actually get from the lactose that you can't get from the standard milk, because you're able to digest this, and it's just pure energy. Like you'll hear this from a lot of people who drink raw milk. When you just go and you drink like a big glass of raw milk, you just chug that, you get very high energy. It's very good before a workout. Sometimes I drink raw milk during a workout. I think it's basically the natural pre-workout, in my opinion. It's very good.
Yeah, it's probably a lot better for you than all the caffeine stuff.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest angle that you're going to get people interested in is the energy side, because that ties into everything. Like, you know, a lot of people will say they don't train because they don't have the energy to train. They're so tired after their day's work, or and most people struggle probably energy wise just to get through their given day, especially, you know, I mean, I can relate from, you know, sleepless. Like last night, I spent 2 hours of my night awake with one of the kids and still got up at 5 a.m. And it's
Hmm.
you have to have a real word with yourself to make yourself do it. And if you didn't have the right nutrition where you had some energy, you'd probably be very much, you know, I'll just snooze the alarm. I won't go to the gym, which I
Yeah.
think is what a lot of people. So just a final question. If you look at the state of the world in terms of health. It's not looking on a good trajectory at the moment. People seem to be getting unhealthier. They're getting more chronic health issues at a much younger age. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and so on are becoming more widespread. What do you think is the well, firstly, what do you think the future is if nothing changes, and how do we get it back, and how do we make it change? Because it doesn't look great.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm in a bit of an echo chamber with the stuff I look at, but I do see a big change moving towards what I'm advocating a lot for, living in like a natural environment with natural foods, and even like getting into farming and making your own foods. Like that's what I do. Like the raw milk I get is from my own cow, which I have here where I live, and we go and milk it. So I see a move towards that in some of the younger generation, but obviously the majority of the world is going the exact opposite direction,
Mm,
moving more into the cities, more into an environment that's very removed from nature. And when you're removed from nature to that degree, it gets very hard to also listen to like what should I actually be eating. So you start to outsource your knowledge to these institutions that are telling you just to eat basically all the stuff that you don't need and telling you to avoid all the stuff that you actually need. So you really have to go through some sort of transformation in terms of your consciousness and your mindset, so you actually can find the information you need. And yeah, I think it's very dark moving towards like if people continue to eat that way and continue to live like they do, I could see a situation where a lot of people in the future are just going to be like very infertile. It's going to be very hard to get
yeah.
kids. And they might come in with some solutions to that, like, okay, now you can have a kid in this like I've already seen those things like the ectolife. You can have it in like an artificial womb or something.
Mm.
So I think like major infertility is probably the biggest issue for like the long-term future. And then obviously all just the health issues, and they're building all these super hospitals and very big like organ transplant centers because so many people are getting sick. So we're just gonna see more and more of that, I would say. And yeah, it's gonna take a lot more healing for people to go through, because it's not like you just go and you have all these chronic issues and you drink one glass of raw milk and then you're healed. The more you have put your body through, the more you're also going to have to go through a transition healing period, which is sometimes a bit tough for people. So people are just making it tougher and tougher for themselves by ignoring the needs of their body. And yeah, yeah, I think there's a major shift to be made in the way people perceive health and the way they act it out in the real world as well.
Yeah, I agree. Without your health, you literally have nothing. It doesn't matter whether you have billions in the
No.
bank or a super mansion. It literally doesn't matter if you're dead or if you're too unhealthy to enjoy it. I always use the analogy that, you wouldn't put cooking oil in your Ferrari, so
No.
and expect it to work. So if you look at your body as that, it's the supercar, it's the best and biggest gift you're ever going to have. Why wouldn't you take care of it?
Yeah.
It's just madness. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great chat, really fascinating. I actually genuinely am. I'm not talking bullshit. I actually am going to go and get some raw milk this afternoon.
That's good.
I've been
That's
talking
good.
about
Good to
doing
hear.
it for a while, so I'm going to go and get some this afternoon, and I might take a bit of time to convince my wife. But if it sorts her hay fever out, she'll be drinking gallons of it, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
uh,
try it out.
but thanks for joining me, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Nice one.